Peter from A&P-Reacts. I'm here today with the lovely Lindsay Schoolcraft and Xen to talk about their band, this conglomerate of stars, Antiqva. You guys have a new video out, a new single. I'm sure there's a lot more on the pipelines. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing well aside from the world situation and earthquakes and protests.
You know, I'm going to be honest here. I don't think anybody's doing as good as Lindsay. She just won an award, and I was expecting her to have it on her hand right now. Oh, there it is. All right.
Yeah.
All right. There it is.
Have to say, acceptance speeches are so incredibly painful. Like you just turn into like this like blundering stuttering God knows what.
I did see it, and you actually did quite well. So
you feel like so small, and you're like, oh no, I have to talk to people. I have to talk to the whole internet about all these people that helped me. What do I do? Like I don't know. Maybe it's just practice. It's just practice for our Grammy. So
I think from now on, any interview that you do, you should have it right next to you. In a predominant spot, so that it shows up on the video, so people can ask you about it, and it's a nice way of starting a conversation.
Yeah, it's a good talking piece.
Just like this the whole time. What are you holding there? Oh, yeah, nothing.
Maybe polishing it a little bit here and there. I think that's the right move. That's the right move for you, at least until you win a Juno. So then once you get the Juno, then you upgrade, and then you just use the Juno instead.
Yeah, it's just holding it like a baby, and then the Grammy.
And then the Grammy, eventually the Grammy. Before we talk about the new single from you guys, I want to go back a little bit because I've never had a chance to talk to both of you about the band and how everything started. How did everything start?
Oh boy, it's such a mess.
Well, it is a mess. I mean, we first met in 2013 when my first band, Enabler of Scaris, did a show with Cradle of Filth in Melbourne, Australia, and so we first met then, and then from there we ended up, we kind of stayed in touch, and our bands ultimately toured across Europe and the US together. And in somewhere in there in 2015, Lindsay and I kind of came up with the idea of exploring other areas of music. And because, when you're in a band, everything you do when you're in a band, unless it's a solo project, you're compromising in some way, shape or form. And so we wanted to express something that was a little bit different, something a bit more classical and also potentially darker on my side of things and less, I guess, progressive in some sense. And so we thought, why don't we start something and see where that goes? And somehow Lindsay was on board with that.
Well, I mean, like we go back to the whole thing that you forgot that after we initially
I keep forgetting because as far as I'm concerned, it didn't happen.
Okay, well, it happened, and I can't find your old profile on Facebook, but what happened is that we met in Australia very briefly. It was really cool. Like Neo at the time got picked to open for Cradle, and Tim was all up in there. Tim was like, "Hey, how's it going? Here's my CD. Like, stay in touch with us." Kind of thing. And I'm like, sure, man, cool. Like, you're cool. So, go home, finish a world tour with Cradle. And then about 6 months later, this like unidentifiable name shows up in my inbox. And I'm like, who the heck is this? And then it's like this, it's Xen. He's like, hey, I played with you and gave you CD. Have you listened to it yet? And I'm like, oh, definitely not, because I am shit. But then at the time, like, and it's like, who sleeping on Neo, like, how dare I? But how dare I was so rude. And we got talking a lot about veganism, just staying in touch. And then he heard my Nymphetamine cover, and he's like, hey, like I like the orchestration you did on this. Like, do you want to start a musical project together? And I had imposter syndrome. Like, I literally put down the bare bones of that, sent it to my guy Spencer Cregan, who I'm still with till this day, and he made it what it was. So I just like made up the excuse. I was like, I'm too busy with Cradle, which I was, because Cradle was a full-time commitment, so we kept in touch. And then of course, because of Tim being like, hey, like, can we play with you? Like, do you know any promoters? Like, Tim is very ambitious, and I have a lot of respect for his ambition. They ended up on tour in Europe and North America with us in 2015 and 16. And then I don't know, Xen and I just like became best friends, and we'd go see like all these cool places and hang out and chat. But it's true, during that time, like we were like I love black metal. I love the super gritty shit, and that's Xen's thing. But like, I was like, I really do want to do something more classical, because Cradle's its own thing. They have their sound. They want to stay to that. Like, that's cool. That's where they belong, and that's what I want to do. Like, who am I to say anything? It's Cradle. But you know, I came in 25 years into their existence, and there really wasn't a lot of space for me. And I had a lot of ideas, and some of them I did try to bring to Cradle at some point, especially during Hammer of the Witches, and a lot of it got rejected. And just because they're like, I don't know what they were thinking about it, but they're just like, no, this isn't for us. And I'm like, at the time, I was like destroyed. I was like, I'm shit. My creations are trash. Like, it was very self-deprecating. But then Xen came along, and Zen's like, no, you can't quit. Bring your songs over here. Let's do something. So
like someone's trash is another's treasure, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Like the raccoons who go through my garbage every night.
Raccoons.
Looking for treats.
It's all about raccoons.
Yeah, you're just my raccoon. So
wow. I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been worse. You could have been a hyena, so I guess that could have been a lot worse.
Or a seagull, or a
seagull. Yeah, or a seagull.
Yeah, not a seagull.
So you know where you stand in the packing order right now. And on that lovely note, my follow-up question to that is what is the most rewarding aspect of working together, besides these barbs being thrown back and forth?
Xen really inspires me a lot. Like, I don't think you realize how much he actually does inspire me, with his weird quirks and his commentary on things, his rants, his angry rants. No, but like,
ones I can't put on Twitter.
Exactly. We're just trying everything not to get canceled here, okay? So I appreciate, like, Xen and I, like, we like a lot of weird, same weird obscure bands, and there's certain points that we're like, yeah, that was amazing, this is good. And you know, it's just like, there's this part of me that's just like, you know, I want to give something to Xen for his lyrics that's going to be pretty fucking amazing. So, you know, I do think about that. It comes from my heart. It comes from me loving creating music, but it's like, okay, like, I got to make this awesome, because like, I don't know why, it's like, I see the band and I see us up on stage and I see Xen there, and I'm like, I got to give him something sick to growl over, you know. That's just this one example. I mean, the other half of the time, it's literally like, oh no, like, here's a melody, I have to drop everything and sing this into my voice notes and run downstairs. It's there. But I think that's the most rewarding part. Like, we kind of constructed and wrote Anna Dem Gyre together before we presented it to the band for the new music video and all that. And yeah, it's I think that's the most rewarding part. I mean, we have our little, not necessarily disagreements, but discussions, and we've always got to problem solve a lot of shit, but it's all around, it's a good time.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to work with someone that's just as driven as you are. You know, we both have goals we want to achieve and that sort of thing, and I think being able to work with someone that's just as driven as you and is kind of on a similar path is really kind of, and also being, you know, a really good friend is, you know, you can't ask for anything more than that in a band.
Yeah.
Looking at the music you guys released so far, these two first singles are very different from one another. Is this a glimpse of what a full record is going to feel like or sound like?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously the Funeral Crown is would be the core element to our sound, and you know, throughout all the songs you'll have glimpses of what Anna Dem Gyre is. And so, because we wanted to kind of explore other avenues, and we came up with the idea of when we released Funeral Crown last year, we came up with the idea of you know, how about we do something a little more focused, but different to Funeral Crown. So we came up with the idea of doing something a bit more kind of down to earth and organic, something a bit more simple to kind of focus on certain elements of it. And so we kind of developed from there, and I suggested the idea to Lindsay, and it all came from a dream.
Yes, if I can tell the story. So we were gearing up to do Funeral Crown. We're like, this is the song. And we picked Funeral Crown because we showed it to a few trusted friends. And, you know, every time it came, the demo was avocado. Like, it was ridiculous. And it was actually my least favorite song at the time. But then when it got to that break with the strings and the piano, anyone who heard it, they just started crying. And I was like, well, like Justine, our drummer, wrote that section about her friend who passed away. So I think that just resonated without lyrics or words. So we were like, okay, we're doing Funeral Crown. And we were just, I don't know where in the recording or writing process we were, Xen. I don't remember, but one morning he sent, well, it's his nighttime, I guess. And he's having his like moment of inspiration. Here's an idea. And he texts me, and I wake up at 6 because more than likely one of my cats woke me up, and I read his message, and he's like, okay, so for the single, can we have like a B-side that's like more chant based with some tribal drums? And like, I'm just like, I'm too tired for this right now. Like so I go back to sleep.
Always too tired for me.
I'm too tired. No, it wasn't the imposter syndrome this time. It was like, I'm supposed to be getting in my sleep. So then, I'm like falling asleep, and I'm like, oh, God damn it, he wants another song from me. You know what I mean? Like grumpy morning me. But then as I'm sleeping, the first two chants, the intro chant, not the part that Addie put in with like the big long drawn out humps, but the da 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 da, that one, and then the middle section, the Lele part, that like all came to me like instantly, so that it was like 8 a.m. rolls around, alarm goes off, I just rip off the duvet and go straight to the computer and start recording it. And I think about like midday I had this idea for Xen. So it was kind of cool because like it really just without the metal aspect, it really gave me a chance to create something different and new based in the chants. But Xen was really great in helping like arrange and conduct like where all the compartments and extras and breaks and the 3 parts, as you call it, were before we presented it to the band. So it was really interesting. But then we were like, when it was done, we've talked about it quite a bit lately. We're like, like this, we have the black metal thing. We did Funeral Crown. That's to be expected. But this is another side of us. And in the last few songs, like we've written about 6 songs so far, and like they're there and they've matured and they're ready to be birthed into the world in a way. But the next half that we're writing right now, a lot of these elements are coming into the heavy part, which is really, really interesting. So we'll see what happens.
I think this was a good kind of experiment for us to include every member in the band in an acoustic form, and kind of bring that kind of side out, because it builds to almost a kind of crescendo and then cuts off. And so as the song progresses, you're including more and more elements of our sound into it, and you kind of get to a stage where you kind of expect something a bit more, and then and I guess it in a sense leaves you wanting more. So I think that's
exactly what happened with me, because when I'm listening to the song, watching the video, I'm like, this should have been at least another minute long, or at least 2, maybe 2 and a half. I just felt like you guys took me all the way to that climatic moment, and then it ended. It's like, what a cliffhanger. Like, I hate when that happens in TV shows, and you guys kind of give me that musically.
Well, I completely understand, because I myself am used to very long-winded songs, say with Neo Obliviscaris, where all our songs are on an average of 9-10 minutes long, and so this was very unusual for me to do, and it, in a way, kind of felt like that, but at the same time, it almost felt right in the aspect of you're gradually including everything, and then you're cutting it off to kind of leave it almost like open, or cutting life too short, or something to that extent. And I think for me, it was rewarding to be able to do something like that. It's kind of showing me that things can work in more of a not a condensed way, but kind of not necessarily simplistic, but just in a shorter but perhaps more meaningful way. If you're left wanting more, then you want to be able to see what comes next.
So we totally planned that.
so when you look at the album, is this song a little bit of a hidden side of who you guys are? Because I felt that the song was very stripped out. It's very raw from that perspective. It has roots in nature. It has a very natural sound to it. Is this going to be kind of like the one track that kind of breaks the album, or sets itself on a different course? Is that how you guys see this track fitting in the overall big picture?
I think with our music, we wanted, because there's definitely an organic aspect to our music. We, from the get-go, Lindsay and I wanted to use authentic instruments throughout everything we do, regardless if it was metal or whatever we wanted, we didn't want to use necessary keyboards to, you know, make up string samples and do that sort of thing. We wanted it to be organic, and, you know, implementing this into our music kind of helped us kind of understand that, you know, we can do things in more of a natural kind of organic way and make things. It gives us, I think it kind of provides more of an authentic feel to things. And so I think this kind of accentuates that.
Can you guys share a little bit of what went into making this video as far as the symbolism is concerned? Because this is one of those songs that when you watch the song, when you listen to the song and you watch the video, the two kind of become one, and you lose yourself in the overall experience of listening to the music and then watching the visuals that are coming with it. I didn't get anything that was happening in the video, but I was completely taken back by. I was totally into it. I was like, I'm not sure what the moths represent, but I'm down with this whole thing. So can you guys share a little bit of what the symbolism of that video represented, like the moths, for example?
Well, I mean, we have to backtrack a little bit because you know, we have a very kind of we use Romanian lyrics within all our songs, and so because of that, we wanted to ultimately pay respect to Romania, because, you know, if you're taking something from a country, then, you know, you pay your respect in some way. And so this, I think, was our opportunity to do that with something a bit more natural and something a bit more I'm not going to say listener friendly, but just something that almost, you know, anyone can listen to. And because we use the Romanian tongue, I wanted to kind of base it on something Romania related, you know, because the country is such a rich country, you know, history, character. You know, when, you know, I went there for the first time, I instantly felt like there was a very deep kind of sense about the country, something a bit more authentic as opposed to, you know, other more, I guess, more civilized in a sense countries.
Until you're like raised by, you know, a Romanian mom, it's a whole other story.
Yeah. And you know, Lindsay has ties to the country as well, and so we wanted to kind of focus on that, and so by doing that, I wanted to touch on the Romanian folklore, and so the song is ultimately to do with Romanian folklore. So, you know, what better opportunity to do that than with this? And so, you know, the story is about the mythology of the Yalei, which are, you know, the daughters of the woods. You might consider them like nymphs or sirens of the sea almost, but kind of a wood version. You know, different people would describe them as either fairies or spirits or something like that. And ultimately, daughters of the woods would, in this interpretation, would you know, lure men, and, you know, if, you know, someone's done them a misdeed or something, they would lure them and then bring, you know, misfortune. They would disappear, and all different kind of stories tell it in a different way, and this is kind of a focus on that aspect.
Lindsay, I guess I wasn't that far off when I said that it had that druid vibe with witches in the woods holding hands and singing around a bonfire.
Yes.
Yeah, it went there. I mean, I don't remember, Xen, I don't remember if it was like I think it was once we had the music together, then you're like, I'm gonna make it about these woodland spirits type thing in this Romanian folklore. And I was like, yeah, of course, like, go ahead, that's really cool. But yeah, I don't know what, like, I mean, I'm half Romanian, and we're still trying to prove if, like, I've got ties to the Romani gypsies, where it's really hard to do, but it would make sense considering all things considered. So yeah, just writing that, I guess in that way, like writing that track, it was a very tribal thing, because it was just kind of like, I don't even remember at one point, just like, I'll just hum under this track. And I'm like, okay. Like it just kind of happened, you know. It was really strange. It was like meant to be.
It's interesting that you guys kept a lot of that symbolism, or used a lot of symbolism on this video. In the previous one, you guys did it as well. Is that part of an extension of your art form? It's not just the music, it's not just the lyrics, is everything else that also goes around it?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, if you want to give people a complete kind of feel about things, then, you know, you have to provide different aspects. I mean, it's one thing to listen to the music of something, but if you can provide some sort of visual stimulation to that to kind of drive, whether it's a story or a feeling through, then, you know, what better way to do it than, you know, capitalize on every aspect. And, you know, we don't like to do things half-assed, and, you know, we want every aspect to be covered. And, you know, this band is an opportunity for us to do kind of, you know, Lindsay and I have big dreams.
Terrifying dreams.
And we're both on the same page. You know, no matter how ridiculous our ideas are, we're both, you know, willing to listen to each other about, you know, is this possible? Is this possible? If it's not, how do we make that happen? And I think you know, both of us kind of almost egg each other on as to, you know, what ridiculousness we can come up with next. To
what challenge can we make for ourselves?
Yeah, you know, if anything, it's if a band, if what you're trying to do is easy, then I think there's something wrong. You know, you can be all professional and things can be easy as musicians, but, you know, you want to be able to challenge yourself more and more. And, you know, we're trying to do that in every aspect with this band. You know, we kind of roll our eyes at the ridiculous nature of each other's ideas maybe, but then you think, okay, you know, that sounds completely stupid, but what do we need to do to make that happen? And I think, you know, we, you know, are trying our best to explore more and more avenues of, you know, moving this band forward in kind of a constructive way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like we've already like started humming and hawing ideas for like future music videos, which is really fun. You know, and I think just to interrupt and put this in here, I think in a way, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I know I've been there. I think you've been there to an extent too. We've been in environments where it's like we get excited about these creative ideas that we have, and then it's just kind of shot down immediately with like the process of like, well, let's talk about it. Let's see if it's even possible. And that, like, as a creative type, that is so incredibly painful to be told, like, you can't do this, like, put a plug in it, put it up on the shelf. Yeah, like, you know, and it's just like, I think that's really cool. So I think people should expect more from us. Like, we've already started thinking about what our live set's going to look like. I know Fabian more than both of us, which is fine. It's nice to have someone else pick up on other things because there's so many moving parts in this band. But yeah, like, people can expect it. I mean, we'll do our best to, with what we have available, to present something that really it's art. And that's what I like about having Xen on board for that, because like I've done it so much as a solo artist, I can't be arsed to do it anymore. I'm just like, I just want to make the music and release it and then get on to the next song, where Zen's like, no, like this. So it's really cool to have.
Yeah, I think we're trying to make the most of every aspect of our band. And I think, say, for instance, music videos, the world is becoming more and more visual. And, you know, we're becoming, not I don't want to say dumber, but, you know, people read less. People, you know, don't read books as much.
Lazier.
The world's just becoming a more lazy place. And I think, you know, with the pandemic and everything's becoming more and more visual. Well, it's fast becoming more and more because of the pandemic, where, and, you know, I think music videos and the visual aspects of bands are things that bands, unfortunately, it is an unfortunate thing in a lot of ways, where, you know, you're a musician, you want to focus on the music and make that good and that sell everything that you have. With us, you know, there's nothing wrong with accentuating or making the most of every part of what you have. And, you know, we're trying to take the opportunity to be able to do that and, you know, become a whole well-oiled machine in every aspect.
Well, Lindsay mentioned there's 6 or so songs ready to see the light of day. Do you guys have a time frame on when you want to see this album coming out?
Well, at the moment, so we're trying to have everything finished by ultimately the end of the year, and then in the new year we'll start recording everything. And depending on how that goes, as to how fast we actually get something released. So, pending the recording process as to when something will be released.
Yeah, like, I know everyone wants it for next fall, and I've looked at the budgets and the rough schedule, and I'm just like, oh guys, that's slamming it. And you don't want to rush your debut. That's a terrible idea. But you know, it also depends on the vinyl situation, because as we all know, pressing vinyl is an absolute headache right now.
I think it's a minimum of 6 months, and so you know, from
9
when
or something.
Yeah, when you have when a band's at the moment, I'm not sure if you know, Peter, but you know, at the moment, if you know, labels expect you give artwork and music to the label, and then from there you'll get a release date. And for most labels, you're looking at normally you're looking at maybe 5 to 6 months they need for a promotional thing, but now it's kind of almost extended because of the whole vinyl situation. So you know, you need to give your vinyl to them like you need to give your finished product to them, you know, even 7 8 months in advance before the release date.
Yeah, so that's like the spring of 2023 is looking more realistic, and it's like that really, I know like that's painful to say and like painful for a lot of people to hear, but like when it does come out, like no, like we have not slept, we have worked ourselves into the ground, we have destroyed our brains, so like it was worth it.
it's not to say that we won't release something next year. It's just
true.
But yeah, we'll see how it turns out, and as to, you know, how efficient we are with our what we have remaining on the album.
I have one last question for you, but for both of you, and that is going back a little bit more into the connection that you guys have between yourselves as artists and as individuals. What do you see in each other as far as a characteristic that you wish you had it yourself?
Oh no. Okay, so I'll go first because I know exactly. Zed, take your time. Process it, okay? I know you, so just process it. What I really wish I had more of that Xen has is kind of like he just lets the bullshit roll off his back. So like there's certain, you know, there's certain things where yeah, you get heated and that's fine. But there's things that like upset me, like I'll just be the dramatic like princess who throws myself on the closest object sobbing. Like I'll get like really upset about these things, and there's been moments where I'm like, I wish I had Xen's not give a fuck about this right now, because of who I am as an emotional person. I'm all riled up because of how my brain thinks, and I'm like, I know if Xen was in this situation right now, he would be like, screw that person, like you're fired. No, like Xen would just be like, oh, fuck that guy. But like me, I'm over here like, oh, I like curse you to the heavens, like just, you know. And it's like, for me, it's like being that emotional, like it is a waste of time, but it's also a part of my creativity. So it's like, I can't knock it entirely. But yeah, there's some days and I'm just like, what would Xen do right now? Well, that's not gonna happen. I'm not doing that.
Well, I just can't deal with bullshit anymore. I've been in the industry long enough to kind of just get to the point where it's like, okay, that's not working. Let's like move on. It's not even a thought. It's a waste of time thinking about it any longer. It's like, and so I'm getting more and more bitter and jaded as time goes on. You know, the pandemic hasn't necessarily helped, and you know, it's exacerbated a lot of issues with people and all sorts of things. And it's just like, I don't want to deal with that. If you don't want to deal with it, move on. It's like you get there quicker. Just cut it off. It's like a Band-Aid. Yeah.
So is there anything from Lindsay's personality that you wish you had?
Oh.
Probably not.
Well,
it's a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Lindsay, and like, you know, her kind of marketing mind, her drive, and just, you know, we're kind of different in a lot of ways in terms of, you know, I find it kind of inspiring, I guess, as to how, you know, she pushes me to put things out into the world. You know, I'm not the most extroverted person, and so I think Lindsay has helped me in a lot of ways to kind of put things more out there, to kind of not necessarily sell myself, but sell kind of what we're doing, and almost believe in the project anymore. She provides that kind of, that core belief that things can move forward in, you know, a productive way without necessarily compromising your kind of integrity. And I think that's, you know, what she's kind of subconsciously helping me with. You know, without her in the band, you know, I'd probably be maybe just still talking about Antiqva, and, you know, it might be I might have, you know, picked up the guitar and created some sort of toilet black metal kind of project that only I would hear. So,
wow.
Wow, you guys complement each other really well. I can tell.
Thanks, man.
I want to thank both of you for taking the time tonight to chat with me. It was an absolute pleasure. It's always a pleasure having you on the channel. I'm sure we'll chat again because there's going to be a lot more things to talk about from now until that release date comes out. So on that note, I just want to say once again, thank you. Absolute pleasure. Anytime you guys want, the door is always open.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
very much, man. Until next time.